lot of y'all passport bros, y'all think y'all done struck gold. Y'all ain't able to get certain women in the United States because you feel like their price is too high.
This is Phil Ivey. He's a master Texas Hold'em player. And one of the things that he's really good at is bluffing and reading bluffs. So here he's going to do a master bluff.
How much you got left? 360.
380,000 is what Jackson finally arrives at.
Okay, so here you can see basically what's going. He's reading what's going on here, right?
Barry, let's put this in perspective. We're looking at a 1,000,000 chip pot, and both players have nothing. We are looking at two guys bluffing with nothing, both of them. Who's going to blink?
With 2 cards to come. I don't think he's going to blink.
I don't see how he can possibly continue in this hand. Everything Paul Jackson has done.
All in.
What?
That's why we're here and they're there.
Absolutely astonishing poker.
Not much point thinking, is there?
Now, what did he just do here? He just went all in, right? Phil Ivey went all in. Now, he knows that he doesn't have a strong hand, but he just does such a strong bluff that he psychs the other guy out. Gets him to quit.
I like it.
And he wins.
I like it. It's a good lie down, isn't it?
He said it was a good lay down, and he's going to do just that. And Phil Ivey is the guy who did not blink.
Watching this hand was like witnessing great art. It's absurd and wonderful at the same time.
You bluff when you know that you play so well that the other person has to respect the fact that you have confidence. You cannot bluff someone when they don't have any confidence in your ability to perform. But when you do have the ability to perform and you're Phil Ivey, you're darn right you can make somebody quit even when they have a chance at winning. That's how you bluff. Just like the bluff we finished watching, this also is a bluff.
A lot of y'all passport bros, y'all think y'all done struck gold. And I understand why. And I hear your complaints and all that other stuff. You know, y'all ain't able to get certain women in the United States because you feel like their price is too high. And I ain't talking about, you know, prostitution. I'm talking about the women in America. They are getting to the point where they want more. They tired of settling for the bare minimum. And a lot of men are having a problem with that. They got an issue with a woman deciding, you know what, I'm gonna stop being a fool for these men and not getting what I deserve. And a lot of y'all can't handle that. Y'all would rather them still be the way they used to be, just standing by us without us really being accountable for our actions and making sure we value them in the right way.
So there are two glaring holes in this argument. So you can see the captioning in Passport Bros. I'm not really interested in the captioning. The first problem is if there aren't enough quote unquote good men around, then shouldn't the birth rate in the black community be negative? Would not women not be having children if they can't find good enough men? So most of the Passport Bros that are leaving, I mean, if either their children are already grown or they don't have children in America, or they don't have children, period. So clearly there are men that aren't the Passport Bros that are, you know, getting that. So there's a hole in that argument. So that's the first problem with the quote unquote bluff. The second problem with the bluff is simply the facts on the ground. You could call it performance. If you're thinking about Phil Ivey can't make that bluff if he's not Phil Ivey. If you have performed to a certain level or to a certain criteria, then you can make that bluff because the person looking across from you knows that you can back up what you're saying. And this would represent performance. So for Blacks and Asians, big gender gaps in intermarriage. These are stats from the Pew Research Center from 2014-2015. While there's no overall gender difference in intermarriage among newlyweds, starkly different gender patterns emerge for some major racial and ethnic groups. Black men are twice as likely as black women to have a spouse of a different race, 24% versus 12%. You see that there, right? It's almost double. And this is what, almost 10 years ago. So of course the percent of newlyweds, maybe even now, the percent of newlyweds probably is at least on an order or two magnitude higher than this. Long-standing one, and this is when you talk about the bluff, this goes back pre-Oprah. In 1980, 8% of married black men and 3% of their married female counterparts were married to someone of a different ethnicity. So even in the 1980s, the idea of divesting and dating out before the Oprah phenomenon, the facts on the ground already suggested who had the better hand in terms of calling the other one's bluff. Among black newlyweds, there are distinct gender differences in intermarriage across education levels. Recently married black women, 10% of those with some college or less had intermarried, compared with 13% of those with a bachelor's degree or more. Meanwhile, among newly married black men, higher education is clearly associated with higher intermarriage rates. While 17% of those with a high school diploma or less had a spouse of a different race or ethnicity in 2015, 24% with some college, and 30% for those with a bachelor's degree or higher. More education, black men tend to marry outside more. The stats, they speak for themselves. The more educated black men get, the more able black men are to marry out. So when you see facts like this, these are the facts that give someone like Phil Ivey the ability to bluff or not bluff. This is not a position where you should be bluffing. And so if you're ever playing poker and you look across the table and you see this gentleman looking at you smiling, he's already done the math. He knows the percentage chance he has to win. And then he's looking at you in your eyeballs and he's saying, do you know the math? Do you have the guts to wager what you're willing to wager? Because when you're bluffing, you know that your bluff is going to end with you losing if the other person has enough confidence to call you to task. Performance is what's going to determine whether your bluff is going to work, not how much you want to believe it or not. Remember the math when you think about who is actually in the position to dictate the terms. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care, guys.